Hi, so my name is Danielle Irving. I'm going to go ahead and talk to you all about the DMV modernization project as the IT project case study for PA 650. It is an assignment for California State University, San Bernardino. And okay, let's get started. So California DMV background. The DMV is the largest vehicle information organization in the world in California because they serve over 26.5 million drivers and register more than 34.7 million vehicles. They issue ID cards. They set up registering and traffic violation for instructors. They have so many functions. With all of these very important functions, that's why you can see how IT is very important, and the technology systems that they use must be very efficient and helpful in serving all of these people. Continuing with the background, many clients have a negative perspective of the DMV. Not only do they perceive the DMV to be full of rude and slow workers, the DMV also has a history of failed IT projects. In 1994, what was supposed to be a 5-year, $28 million project was canceled. The project started in 1987 and would have cost more than $200 million to complete. And all of the parts of the project that were completed were not useful. The unfinished project cost about $44 million. The new project that we're going to get more into, now that we've discussed the background, the DMV modernization project. The DMV's previous system was compiled of 40-year-old technology that was inflexible and caused many challenges to keep up with the industry and incorporate new policy mandates. In 2006, the modernization project was approved. It was expected to cost $242 million. It was expected to be complete in May of 2013. The main vendor that they worked with was Hewlett Packard, and we're going to call them HPES from here on out. And the main goals were to update the DMV's database, update the DMV's transaction management system, build new web-based driver license and vehicle registration systems, and update the DMV's written code, which is written in a now obsolete program language. The project was not suspended until January of 2013 by Caltech. A total of $135 million was spent on the project. The project did have some successes, though, that are still being used today. Ultimately, they were not all complete, but there are some things that are still in place and helping the DMV to this day. So one approach the DMV used to try and properly make sure that the IT project would succeed is an incremental development waterfall approach. The previously listed 4 major goals were actually completed in increments that would allow the technology to be built upon one another so that the DMV can begin implementing the technology as it was built. 2 of the 4 goals were completed, and the remaining 2 goals were underway when the project was terminated in 2013. So the DMV did steps to try and make sure the project succeeded. However, it did not completely succeed. So there were 3 main reasons I identified for project termination. One was poor project management. We're going to go over the 10 project management knowledge areas identified by the Project Management Institute in Shark's work. We're also going to talk about the lack of stakeholder involvement. In this case, Caltech was a major stakeholder and they failed to complete their management responsibilities. And lastly, we're going to go over the lack of resources and expertise. The DMV actually was concerned with the expert staff that the vendor needed. They believe the vendor did not have the staff that they should have had to be completing this project on time. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So project management. I'm going to focus on the ones that are in red and maybe 1 or 2 that are in black. Project scope management. The DMV did a decent job of this. They understood what was needed of the project and had all the necessary documents in place. Time management. This was an issue for the DMV. The DMV started this project in about 2007 after all the budgeting and planning was complete. From 2007 to 2012, they did nothing. They did not let the Hewlett-Packard, the vendor, know that they didn't do any formal notice that they were off schedule. So even though they were having conversations with them, they were sending documents back and forth, there was no formal document that told the vendor that they need to get back on schedule or we need to find a new vendor. So I believe if the DMV had, before 2012, put some sort of document out there to let them know that they were off track, maybe this project would have done better. I am going to talk about number 3, cost management. The DMV actually was able to lower the cost to about $208 million from the $243 budgeted for this project. So good job for them. Quality management. Again, there are no major issues or red flags when it came to quality management. It seems like everything was under control. Number 5, human resource management. This goes back to when the DMV was telling the Hewlett-Packard that there were not enough human resources. The human resources were supposed to be provided by Hewlett-Packard in working on this project. However, they failed to complete their tasks. Number 6, communication. Again, there seemed to be great communication and amongst the people in the DMV and to Hewlett-Packard. 7, risk management. There were so many risks with this project being such a large scale. They should have had some type of risk management system going on. Procurement management. This kind of just refers back to human resource management. They did not have the necessary team in place to make this happen. Number 9, project stakeholders management. We're going to talk in a little more depth about the project stakeholders, Caltech. However, they did not succeed in their role. And lastly, project integration management. This seemed to be going okay. Stakeholder involvement. Caltech was responsible for managing the project. However, due to their own internal issues with training policy and understanding of the roles, they were not properly overseeing the project. They faced their own challenges in pursuing effective project oversight, and their staffing practices hindered their ability to oversee the project. Caltech actually understood the issues that were troubling the DMV project, but did not intervene because they did not know how, or they had no policy in place for doing this. Lastly, resources and expertise. This goes back to Hewlett-Packard not hiring on the expert staff that they needed to complete this project. The project became totally off schedule because of this. So the organizational impact. There was actually some pretty good successes of this IT project that were useful to the organization. There's a new driver's license system and a new vehicle registration system, which is used across all the field offices. Unfortunately, though, the failed project seems to have added to some of the DMV's already negative image. Lessons learned. So again, the DMV should have been better with their time management practices and their overall project managing practices. Caltech also needs to address their internal issues because a big role as a stakeholder was to oversee this project. And they need to get their internal issues in check because they also had other projects that failed as a result of lack of oversight. And that is their main job when it came to these projects. It wasn't just the DMV, there are a couple others as well. Lastly, vendors, in this case, Hewlett-Packard should have fulfilled the terms of their contract or heeded to the concerns of their customers. There is a huge disagreement between Hewlett-Packard and the DMV about the expertise required for this project. I truly believe if they had listened, maybe some of the other steps of this project would have been completed. So in overall summary, the DMV was not solely at fault for the failed project. It takes a collaborative effort between the vendors, the stakeholder, and the organization to make sure that a project is properly managed, has the necessary resources involved, and involvement from stakeholders to stay on task. Thank you for your time. These are my references. I really appreciate you tuning in.